Welcome to a special series where we interview a host of notable people from the Genius 100 Summit in Los Cabos, Mexico, on the moment that changed everything. Here, you'll learn their secrets to success, gain invaluable insights into what shaped their careers, and key takeaways on what it takes to be a leader in their field.
This is absolutely what we need. This is absolutely the future. We have to get on this.
Talk to people who think so beautifully about big, complex challenges.
G100 Los Cabos, Mexico, a special series on the moment that changed everything.
Okay, how do you work your questions?
How do I do it?
Yeah, is it just off the
Well,
top?
I think, it's not scripted. I'll try to start, in the loose format is a walk through somebody's career. Loose. But sometimes I'll start with something that's timely and contemporary. If there's something, there's no one way is the answer.
Okay.
There's no one way.
And
sometimes something will be interesting, and I'll say, let's dig a little deeper. That's, you took us in a different direction. Let's stay there.
Are you kind to your guests, or do you
Very
call
kind.
them out?
Yeah, no, it's a love letter. Yeah, I'm in the business of business theater. I'm not an investigative journalist. So that doesn't mean you don't talk about tough issues, but I'm, for the most part, not looking to a gotcha moment.
Right, okay. So they like you?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I hope so. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no, for sure.
No,
I
we're
mean-
setting people up and making them look good.
Are you making money from your podcast?
Yes, yeah, we do sell.
And how long did that take?
Well, you got to build an audience, but we now have what we've been doing for our business overall is we've got about 12, 13, 14 podcasts, mine being one of them, the flagship, of course, that we've created. So we have a whole network now of content. So if you look on the Advertising Week site and click podcast, you'll see a dozen shows. Some we've created out of our own studio. Some, like I'm friends with Richard Edelman, Edelman PR.
Yeah.
So Richard is one of my boys. And his big thing, the Edelman big external currency, if you will, is the Edelman Trust Barometer. So they come out, they do all these studies, they come out with all these different angles on trust. So I created for him the Trust Barometer podcast. So it was our idea. They pay us money to do it. And we do a turnkey
Oh,
for
so
them.
you've been going to people and say, hey, here's a great idea
Here's
for
an idea.
something.
Yeah, like I told them years ago, we should do a Genius 100 podcast.
By the way, it's been suggested many times.
Yeah, I told them.
And
3 years ago, yeah. I said, because you got a built-in, all these people are guests. And you've got a whole network of people. It makes sense to me.
there are 38 of them, and
Yeah.
they've never been published.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
so
just one of those.
whatever,
Yeah.
Whatever.
So how did you get hooked up with Genius 100?
Well, is this the podcast, by the way? Is that
Yeah.
what we're doing now?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just making sure. I thought I saw we were just kibitzing. So I'm a longtime friend of Ido.
Right.
And
How did you meet Ido?
We met, it's a great question. I don't think it was through David Sable. It was when he was ambassador. And we had been having some conversations around bringing Advertising Week to Israel. And I think that's how I got to him initially. And he's a lovely guy. So
Yeah.
and we've just stayed in touch.
Oh, he's been very helpful to me,
Yeah.
amazingly so.
Yeah, we've stayed in touch.
And coming here, this is about meeting people. What did you hope from?
Well,
the 3 days
in the
here.
most non-arrogant way, I don't go to a lot of stuff like this. For what I do for a living, we're staging events all around the world. So Advertising Week is in New York, London, Tokyo, Sydney, Mexico. I'm going home for a few days from here and then going to Johannesburg. We're launching Advertising Week Africa in a few weeks, and we're bringing Kevin Hart to Africa. So between the events and then the lead up to them, I travel quite a bit and go to our stuff. So for the most part, I pass, again, in the most non-arrogant way, simply because my travel plate and our own, just taking care of our own knitting, if you will, keeps me pretty busy. But I have enormous respect for Ido, and that's why I came here. So I didn't really come with any expectations. I figured it'd be a good, interesting crowd of people, and We're sort of in the neighborhood. We've been in Arizona for, the last month. So a 2-hour flight. Okay. This feels like one to say yes to.
Have you met anyone here that's inspired you?
Yeah, I mean, I think all the people are inspiring. Everybody's got a story. I like the eclectic nature of the group. So you've got people from academia and from the sciences and entrepreneurs. And so I think when you get an interesting mix like that, that's one of my favorite things to eat, which I don't eat very often, is jambalaya, because there's so much good stuff in it. And this sort of feels like a big bowl of jambalaya for the brain.
Do you read a lot?
I do, yeah. I read books on vacation, not in the day-to-day. But in the day-to-day, I'm a voracious reader of news and an avid podcast listener.
And what do you listen to?
I'm a regular guy idiot, so I listen to a lot of sports-related stuff,
Yeah.
a lot of football stuff. I like the Bill Simmons podcast, and I don't like the gambling part. A lot of it is about gaming now. That's a big part of the sports world. But I like my golf teacher, Hank Haney, has a podcast that I listen to, and The Ankler, who we're partnering with on an event in Los Angeles, Oscars week, Janice Min and her team. I love The Ankler.
I've just started.
Yeah, I think they do a great job.
What's next?
Well, I think keep building, I mean, I still love the chase. I think I'm less interested in operating the factory, but much more interested in building a factory and then finding a location to build another factory. And we're also doing a lot of work now, and I'm spending a lot of time on causes and issues that transcend our industry, but where I've been able to leverage the Advertising Week platform to create relationships with folks that are out in the world trying to make the world a little bit better. So I'll give you an example. We're bringing Kevin Hart to Africa, which I mentioned. The two pieces of it that I'm most excited about are not the big shows in the arenas in Cape Town and Pretoria. It's not that he's going to be talking on the Advertising Week stage about his company Heartbeat and their plans, for Heartbeat in the content creation world. The pieces I'm most excited about are a dinner that we're doing in partnership with the Nelson Mandela Foundation. And then we are taking Kevin to a school for the U.S. I'm the president, which is the volunteer job, for a not-for-profit based in Johannesburg called Education Africa. And Education Africa was started about 30 years. The patron was Walter Sisulu, who was one of the godfathers of the anti-apartheid movement, along with Mandela, Mbeki, and Oliver Tambo. And they had built a school. Among their many programs in South Africa is a school called Masebambane, which is in a township called Orange Farm, which is very, very, very poor. 90% unemployment. And within this township, which is crime is off the hook, poverty is off the hook, there is this school. There were 1,200 kids. They have a 100% graduation rate. And these kids are unbelievable. And I've been there, and as soon as I got there, I said, we have to bring Kevin Hart here and give these kids a day they'll never forget. And Kevin readily agreed. So in just a few weeks, that will all happen. And I'm very excited about that I've created a platform where we have the ability to do things like that and impact people's lives in a real way.
And will that be part of Advertising Weeks everywhere?
Well, we do a lot of stuff with young people everywhere we go. So yeah, there are different causes and issues that we take on, and we always make room for more. So on our stages, we've done a lot of stuff around mental health. Emma Stone first spoke about her challenges growing up as a young girl around mental health for the first time on our stage. One of my favorites years ago, we put together an odd pairing of Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue and Jerome Adams, who was the Surgeon General of the United States at the time, talking about the opioid crisis. And the Surgeon General is in full military regalia, in uniform. Nikki Sixx looks like Nikki Sixx, all rock and roll. So really, no matter what the cause or issue is, we'll take it on and leverage the Advertising Week platform to shine a light on those issues.
Good for you. Who picks the issues?
Sometimes we pick them, sometimes they pick us. So I may get a phone call from somebody about a particular thing. many years ago. This is pre-George Floyd, but as a response to the ongoing challenges we have as a country with white cops shooting unarmed black men. There were a group of 4 really accomplished creatives who created a group called Saturday Morning and created some incredible work around justice and around, injustice to black people in particular in this case. And Saturday Morning launched at Advertising Week. Somebody called me, hey, these guys are doing this. Would you make your platform available to them to do their, thing in public for the first time? So, sometimes it comes from us. I pitched in the fall of 21, which was our post-COVID comeback live. We did the event at Hudson Yards, but I felt post-George Floyd, it was the right year to make a big statement around the failings of our industry around diversity. I think like most industries, there's a lot of lip service and not a lot actually happens. And so there's no place more, I would argue, not just in black culture, but American culture, than the Apollo Theater in Harlem. And I pitched an idea to a friend of mine at YouTube and said, here's something I want to do. I want to make it a benefit for the Mandela Foundation with an eye towards, eventually launching in Africa. And they got the idea, understood what I was saying, and we had a huge event at the Apollo Theater with Mary J. Blige as our headliner and sold out the Apollo Theater and brought all these people from our industry, up to Harlem. So, that was a great one. So sometimes it's something you think of and pitch and somebody bites. Sometimes it's an idea that comes, across the transom.
So if you talk about our industry for the moment, and we look at commercials that are coming out now or ads that are coming out that are it's entirely about diversity. Okay, is that something that you're for, or is it something that in many cases, because you can look at a commercial and go, the casting doesn't work.
Yeah, seems forced.
Yeah.
Listen, I think, and we have initiatives and purposeful initiatives for the Hispanic population and the API, Asian, Pacific, I guess AAPI, some people say, or API, but the Asian population. And to me, I went to public school and grew up in Queens, and we used to walk home for lunch. That's what culture was at the time. And my mom would always say, if you have a friend who doesn't have money for lunch, you could bring him or her home. And I used to do that. And so to me, it's a cultural issue and a social issue, but we're a business, and so from a business vantage point, why wouldn't you want to talk to all your customers? That's the part I don't get, which to me is neither liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican. Well within our lifetime, and you and I are about the same age, America is going to be more than 50% non-white.
For sure.
That's just where it's going,
Yeah.
right? The Hispanic population is give or take 20% right now. The black population is give or take 13%. And then on top of that, everybody else. So why wouldn't you want to talk to all your customers? I think that the idea behind what's going on right now from diversity, I think there's a lot of guilt. I think there's a lot of, I don't really know what to do, so let's get a black man and a white blonde woman together and put them in an ad for,
Right.
Tylenol, whatever it might
Yeah.
be. But I think people are trying to figure it out, and I think some people are doing a better job than others. But to me, as a business issue, I want to talk to all the people who are interested in whatever I have to offer. And from going back to the social consciousness piece of what we're doing, to me, doing good is also good for business. So one of the guys who I really respect, who's spoken on our stage, is the ex-CEO of Unilever, Paul Polman. Paul was the first one who really showed that wrapping certain Unilever brands around sustainability increased sales. So I don't necessarily believe that doing good is an expense for a company. I think if you come up with the right product and the right platform and the right recipe, doing good can also be good for the bottom line. And I think Paul at Unilever proved that.
Matt, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. We're at Genius 100 Visions in Los Cabos, Mexico, and this is the moment that's changed everything. Thanks, Matt.
To learn more about how you can support G100 initiatives, visit genius100visions.com.